Hi, I want to make this video as a comment to JD Vance about the speech at Munich recently in February 2025. I am a supporter of Trump and Vance at arm's length. But I really want them to succeed because I think we have to have some success in America. And after the tragic Biden administration, I really want Trump and Vance to succeed. And I want to say that I'm absolutely not a leftist politically. I also want to say that I really respect J.D. Vance and his story. And I watched the movie Hillbilly Elegy and what he came from and where he's gotten to. I have a great deal of respect. So I want to start by saying that. But the speech at Munich I found absolutely shocking. As far as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, as far as I understand it, the speech was that the greatest threat to Europe was not Russian aggression, it was problems within. And particularly he mentioned immigration, freedom of speech, and election integrity, I believe. That was my sense that I got from what I saw of it. I was shocked at the hypocrisy, to be honest. I've lived in Europe quite a bit and traveled in Europe quite a bit, and I can say, of course, nothing's perfect, but Europe, I thought, was in very good shape in many ways. And I also noticed the problems, of course. But in comparison to what's going on internally in America, I found it absolutely shocking to hear him lecture Europeans about the internal state of European affairs. Not that I'm saying that Europe is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but to lecture them about internal affairs and to downplay the risk of Vladimir Putin, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. It would be like going into England in late 1930s and lecturing England about internal politics and downplaying the rise of Adolf Hitler. I'm in a state of shock about it. If I was a European or a European politician, I would be so pissed off at what J.D. Vance said, I would be red in the face. Here's a sign that I saw, and it's typical of what I see when I'm driving around my hometown. I thought this was very funny. Can you see it on the camera? Everything is appreciated except cats. At least people in America have a great sense of humor about it. But in terms of internal issues going on in a country, JD, you lectured the Europeans. In your own country, if in a lot of cities in America, including the city I'm from, Portland, Oregon, if you wore a MAGA hat downtown Portland, you want to talk about freedom of speech, you would be assaulted, I'm guessing, within a few minutes. And it wouldn't be good at all. And you lecture the Europeans about their civility with freedom of speech. I don't quite understand that at all. Immigration. In America, we don't have an immigration policy. The policy completely is dependent on who is in the presidency at the time. There is no policy. It's in the wind. Whoever's running the country, the policy is completely dependent on them. That is no policy. And you lectured European countries about their immigration. That's like the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, I just couldn't believe what I heard. And then the whole thing about, oh my gosh, what was the next thing? It was immigration, freedom of speech. I've lost. It escaped me for a moment. Election integrity. The guy you work for tried to overturn and had a lot of people trying to overturn and many people rioting on January 6th trying to overturn the last election. And you lectured the Romanians about election integrity. I mean, the hypocrisy is almost breathtaking. It's almost comic. I just want to point out a few things, JD. We're $37 trillion in debt. We have a mass shooting in this country in public schools at least once a month. The country's flooded with automatic weapons. And you're concerned about the internal problems in other countries? Millions of people in the country are on drugs. According to what President Trump has said, a couple 100,000 people have died from fentanyl alone. Let alone, you know about the opioid epidemic from your experience as a child. I deal with people every day where I live they reek of marijuana. I would say at least 20% of the people that I deal with, and that who else knows what they're on? People are absolutely obliterated by drug use in this country. More people that I meet, young people, have more invested in their tattoos and their piercings than they do in their bank account. Do you think you might want to point that out to people instead of lecturing European countries and maybe have people have a little more consciousness about their own lives? Not to mention what they put on their bodies with the tattoos, the piercings, and the drug use, but what we eat in this country. Our life expectancy is going down, not up. People are horribly unhealthy. Many people. We spend more on healthcare than any other country in the world. Some guy walked out in the street in New York City and shot the CEO of the biggest health insurance company in America. And you're lecturing European countries about their internal problems being the biggest threat to them? I'm amazed. The greed and the injustice that goes on in this country, and the lack of, and the moral decline, and the decline of people's health, and you're lecturing European countries. I'm sorry to laugh about internal problems being the biggest threat to their security. Have you looked around at how many people are holding up signs like this in the streets of America? I mean, where I live, the homeless epidemic is not even considered a real problem. I'm in Florida. There's nothing like it is here, like it is on the West Coast. And yet, you drive on any street corner, down almost any street, and you see the decay and people standing around with signs like this. And it's not even a problem here. It's just a little bit of salt in the food here compared to how it is out on the West Coast. I am absolutely amazed. I don't even know where else to start about the problems. To lecture the Europeans on their internal problems and downplaying the threat of Putin, to me, if I was a European, would be the biggest slap in the face. I don't understand the Trump administration's in the first couple of weeks. This is where it really breaks down for me. Why chastise your friends and talk tough to them and cozy up to your enemies? Namely, what I'm talking about is Putin. I mean, Putin has instructed basically his terrorist state to cut the cables, undersea cables of many of our allies, and we say nothing. And you lecture European leaders about isolated incidents of problems with freedom of speech, their immigration policy, which is equivalently as bad as ours, and certainly not any worse, and election integrity after what happened in 2016. Please, it's embarrassing as an American to listen to something like that. Can we get our own house in order internally before we would lecture Europe? I've been there. They're not even close to on par with the decay that we have in America morally and visually, economically, in many ways. I mean, it's a travesty, the speech in Munich, in my opinion, a total disgrace. Please stand up to our enemies, our real enemies, and be nice to our friends. As a supporter and a citizen, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.